Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of 2.5 Salesmen. I'm your host, Mario, together with my friend Giulio, where we talk all things sales, completely raw, uncut, and unfiltered. Giulio, how are you, my man? How many coffees today?
I mean, you want to hear the real truth? I never had a coffee in my life.
You're Italian. I don't believe it.
I'm a bad Italian. I think they should take away my passport. It's almost as bad as putting pineapple on pizza, right?
Someone will report you to Italian authorities. What? He's not drinking coffee? Take away his citizenship.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to stop the recording right here if we carry on this way. Otherwise, I'm going to be deported to God knows to what country.
All right, man. So in today's episode, ladies and gentlemen, we will talk about hiring SDRs in 2023. Very hot topic. I mean, hiring salespeople, very hot topic, but we will look at it from two angles. One, a former hiring manager that actually still consults a lot, especially in very hot niche that is HR. That would be Giulio, and then me, who is kind of sales manager, sales leader, someone who leads the team but doesn't have sales slash hiring managers. It kind of has to do it all by himself, right? So let's kick it off, man. When we say, when we say hiring SDRs, kind of what's your first spot? What are you thinking?
When you say that, I'm thinking about my clients, thinking about pain. That's the first thing I'm thinking. I think generally hiring salespeople is tough. Yeah. And actually, like as a very small opening to another topic, which is related, is one of the biggest topics in HR is the cost of the wrong hire these days. Yeah. And hiring the wrong salespeople, it can be enormous in terms of cost, right? And in terms of this, like, I mean, from your experience, obviously, you probably hired your fair share. Can you tell me an anecdote of your most gruesome bad hire?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I would say I want, and this was years ago, man. I once hired a very good salesperson I knew, because I worked with him, but we were in two different teams. And now I left the company, he left the company, and I was kind of talking with him that he joins my team. But that was a super big mistake, simply because he didn't fit in culturally at all. So he was, I don't know how to define it, right? Like he never fit within the team. He was more of a lone wolf. Really didn't grasp what is the team culture and the team spirit that I kind of fostered there for quite some time, and ended up a very bad divorce.
Was it expensive as well?
It was at the time. So this is 2012. So 10 years ago, it was a hefty one. Like, he ended up costing us a lot of money. Like, really a lot of money, right?
Okay.
Both in like things that he did, but also in just not bringing in sales for the time. And he was supposed to be plug and play. Like, you put him, he sells. Right, so that was kind of plug and play situation there. What about you? Any horror stories you can share?
I mean, there's one that comes to my mind. It wasn't. I was mainly hiring entry level, right? We were hiring like 20, 30 a month, so I hired so many of them. And in that case, it's always hit or miss. People that have never picked up a phone in their life is always a bit of a struggle. At one time, we decided to start a division from scratch. And we hired these two senior people. They were meant to come in with all this business, with all these ideas, etc. And it turns out that we're both incredible charlatans. So one got fired like after 2-3 months, and then the other one lingered, just lying, scheming, politicking, trying to hold to his seat. And at a certain point, it was like, look, you're meant to be a biller, like you get on the phone, and then he just started making 100 calls a day, but just hanging up as soon as the reception picked up, just to fulfill the KPI. So it's just
What?
those, yeah, like crazy stuff. Well,
I
those people,
mean, why would you ever do that? That's
because it was
just
coming from a big company where he just thought we wouldn't check. He just thought the KPI would be enough. And then I started QA in his sales meetings with 2 junior members that he had in the team, and there were some horror stories, like basically being misogynist to the employees. It was honestly, it was a horror show. So yeah, it happens often, unfortunately.
oh. Well, that kind of brings me to a very interesting point there, right? So how do you make sure these things don't happen? Right. And we can talk about leadership, and we will cover hiring, sales, leadership, maybe, well, not maybe, most likely in some of the some other episode. But like, how do you make sure you will make mistakes, right? Like, that's a given. We are human. We will make mistakes. But how do you minimize? So what can you maybe tell us a little bit that, like, the systems that especially young founders that are looking to or watching this podcast are kind of wondering, right?
I mean, look, I think there's 3 pieces to the equation, to put it quite shortly. First of all, is there's no way you can just make it right. You're always gonna, even in the best situation, even the most structured companies, you're still gonna have a good 20 to 40% risk chance that you're getting the wrong hire. The second thing, which is the most like recommended situation you can use right now, is having the system into place, and that's basically where you have the screening process, which is done in the right way, asking the right questions, checking, getting references. Like, oh my god, so many people don't check references, which for me is just like crazy, heartbreaking. And then the third one is, there's a lot of tech that can help with this these days. Have you ever tried any of the tech that you can use in situations like this?
Excellent question, my man. And let me get quickly back to the point too. I was once hired by a company to assist with their hiring, right? So they never hired a salesperson. They hired me, and I get the CVs, and I'm kind of just doing a glance. Like, okay, discard, like, clearly no sales experience. We're not hiring. Oh, this one looks actually good on paper, and so on and so on, right? And then I noticed several people working in companies where I have friends, where I know that they either work with people or they were their direct reports. I just ring up my friends and ask, hey, I am hiring for this and this role. This is I want to achieve. This is what I need this salesperson to do, or in this case, SDR. What can you tell me about it? Like, just, be honest. I mean, if you ask me, I would do the same thing to you. Like, I would always be super honest, at least from my frame of reference, right? So that's kind of a thing, that you will always check references. I mean, that's a given.
Agreed. I think checking references is like a bit like getting a referral, right? You just have a much higher chance that things will work out. I think in terms of let me ask a different question though. What would you say would be the top 3 things you would have in your mental checklist when you're looking to hire like someone new, especially SDRs, right?
Yeah, since we are talking about SDRs, I always, so there are some things that I always look for, right? So I kind of split my interviews, cultural interview versus skills interview. So I never check these, or tend never to check these in the same call, right? So skills, that's fairly easy, right? I want to see how you're doing calls, like, how do you write emails? How do you generally, how do you prospect, right? Like, what's your philosophy regarding that? But then I always try to find examples of when you persevere.
Uh-huh.
That would be one of the examples. Second is, what is your general attitude? I mean, this is kind of a hot topic for me currently, and I'm actually doing a workshop in the upcoming days with my team at Centric on sales attitude, meaning how do you look at the world, right? Is it glass half full, half empty? Someone will clean the glass in the end. So how do you see the world? Right?
I agree.
I mean, that would be, especially for an SDR, right? Like, dude, how many rejections per hour can you get?
Without wanting to hang up, hang yourself, right? So I agree.
Right?
I think for me it would be like I totally agree. First of all, like skills versus attitude. I would say the number one would be the actual, like can-do attitude, positive attitude. Generally, if I feel like I'm facing a complainer or something like that, for me, that's automatically disqualified.
But man, how do you check that? How do you check if someone is a complainer? Let's say. So what would be one or two questions that you could ask?
I mean,
or you don't even have to ask, right? So how do you check it? I mean, you can put them in different situations and then listen, like actually listen to what they're saying. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I think the active listening part is the crucial. Like generally, even the good salesperson will be able to smile when they're feeling differently inside, right? But at the same time, like even that facade tends to crack quite easily, unless they're an exceptional salesperson, in which case I don't mind that much, even if they're feeling a bit differently. But overall, some things will come up, how they phrase things, how they put them across. So for example, a very good question to generally ask is, why are you leaving your job? Why are you looking? And that usually a lot of people will betray themselves and start complaining about.
Did you ever get an answer because I need money?
I did. Well, I mean, again, like I've seen a lot of the different situations. Some of them told me about money. I mean, I was working in recruitment, right? So I would hear conversations all the time. And the people, whenever someone told me I'm looking for more, just for more money, that was the first motivation. I instantly knew that's just, even in sales, right? It's bad because they're gonna get a counter offer, and then you just wasted your time trying to hire them.
But why again, like, why would that be a bad thing if they're here for the money, right? If we know that we have an excellent product, so when I say excellent product, we know that our product actually solves a significant problems, right? So we are, and then you have an SDR coming in who is a champion, who's maybe underpaid at his company. I would say, consider this, right? That could be a problem if you are in kind of an early stage startup, right?
I see all types of problems with that, to be honest. I mean, if someone, like maybe in the US, where we're far more open about talking about money, that's okay. But like the average person knows that mentioning that you just want to change job for money is not a good idea, right? So already, if they can't figure out that, I gotta ask myself, like, okay, this person never interviewed before. If they haven't, why? Or then I'm asking myself, okay, is this person just purely money driven? So what are they going to do in order to get the money? Are they going to try and cheat the commission system? Are they just going to change as soon as they get a better offer, etc., etc.? If someone also tells me, look, I'll be honest, I want to change for X, Y, and Z, and also I also want more money, no problems. But if I ask someone, why do you want to change? I want more money, and that's it, and that's the only motivation, then for me, 99% of the time, it's going to be a no.
That's kind of the major red flag.
I look, again, I don't want to make this all about that specifically, right? But it's more the logic that if someone is changing a job is second most important part of your life, third after health and then family, right? Or loved one, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to spend a lot of time doing it. Money is an extrinsic motivation. It's not intrinsic.
Yeah.
Most people don't work also because they get money, but because they get fulfillment. So if your only fulfillment is money, like I've got to ask some serious questions about how your psychology is working. Don't you think?
But again, I would need to disagree here, simply because I would say it's more of a cultural thing rather than, I mean, Europe, it's slow and steady, right? So if someone in Europe tells me I'm in it for the money, first of all, I would appreciate it, but then I would ask follow-up questions like, what happens when you get entrenched here, you start rolling, you start scheduling SQL after SQL after SQL, and then a better offer comes along your way. What then? Right? So that would be like that would be a question. Like I would check in US where everything is bam bam thank you ma'am. It just everyone will say I trust your transparency. Let's see if you're any good.
Yeah, again,
right?
I would say probably for the US, it might make more sense, but I'll be honest, I don't have enough experience to say that openly. I just generally think it's, even in the US, when I was recruiting in the US, people that were too straightforward about the money, they still didn't perform that well in interviews. Because look, companies, it's funny, right? Companies, they're all about numbers and money. At the same time, when
at the same time, no one wants to talk about that.
Well, no, it's more like when you're all just about numbers and money, then they don't want you anymore, right? Which is kind of, that's what I find ironic. I'm just referring to the plain, just the money card. For me, it's not a very good sign of you knowing how to handle an interview, and that's why I res.
Yeah.
Go on.
So
Yeah,
Giulio,
we're getting stuck on this one. So
yeah. So Giulio, what do you think about? And this is always, especially for the SDRs, right? So we're gonna get a little bit deeper here. So what do you think about hiring for skills versus hiring for industry knowledge / industry experience? So let's say you have two candidates, both looking good. You do a screening interview, you do a first interview, you kind of really like them, and then one has, let's say, industry connections, but it's not that good of a, let's say, SDR. Like they lack kind of a basic prospecting skills or something like that. And then you have another one who has literally no ties to the industry, but is one hell of an SDR.
I mean, do I need to answer?
Well, your tone.
Whoever is listening to this, if you're for 1 second thinking about hiring person one, do not do that, right? But especially for an SDR, right? If you're looking to hire a regulatory person, and then they got contacts with the government, hell yeah, of course you that's fine. But for an SDR, you told me like maybe they're not so good at prospecting. So what happens once they go through their 100 contacts that they have? Okay, they go through 100 contacts. Let's say they're very good with those people. They close 25 of them, right? And so they book 25 meetings, and then what? Then I'm stuck at day one. I have to fire them and hire somebody else.
I mean, yeah, that's always the topic, because I do see a lot of not only hiring managers, right? Like first time or second time founders, but mostly first time founders, right? They raise a little bit of money. It's time now to build the sales team. And in one of the episodes, we did talk about how to actually build a sales team, right? From scratch. And then when it's time to hire an SDR or SDRs, they kind of fell into this trap that that here comes a person that's been in the industry for a very long time, and they think they will just open all of the doors and then money will come in flying. But that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, no,
I made that mistake in one of my previous startups where I worked as a VP sales. I hired a guy who knew everyone in the industry, literally everyone knew. He closed one deal for 14, 15 months that he was granted. It was a big, granted it was a big deal. But that was it.
Wow. So I can imagine it was a bit of a problematic situation. But look, but why did you hire him then? What was the rationale? Because I think even then you probably had some doubts, right?
Oh, I had doubts, and I raised them with my CEO, and then the CEO, I wouldn't say overruled me, but he said, look, he has all the connections. He's been specifically, this was he was living in a part of the world where we didn't speak that specific language. He knew everyone there. He was there for a long time. Everyone in the industry knew him. Said, consider hiring him because of the connections, and then you take it that you run the deal. But that was impossible because I didn't speak the language, right? So he ended up closing one deal, and then nothing else happened.
Yeah, to me that's I mean that's a risk because you're hiring for the network, you're not hiring for the skills. So I completely agree with this. And look, in terms of your hiring experience, right? So what would be like, we kind of discussed about the skill that or the attitude that we're looking for, etc. Like, have you got any other tips for potential founders or VPs that are looking to hire?
Oh yeah, well, my number one tip always, and this kind of has the cascade effect, right? I think I'm saying it correctly, and that's let's say it's something that so in like Americans call it coachability, right? So what I do is so first of all, when if you're an SDR and you come to me, right? So I will make you do a mock call.
Nice, good, yes.
Right? You will screw up for sure. I mean, you will do something wrong, right? It's not because you're not good or you don't know how to do it or for any of those reasons, but it's simply it's a very artificial environment. It's you are in a job interview. This is the first or second time we are talking. You're a little bit nervous, right? So you will do something wrong, right? And of course, for all of you listening, if you are ever in a situation with me like that, don't worry. The goal is to see how coachable you are. And then I will give you tips. This is what you did good. This is what you did wrong. Let's try again. And I want to see how fast can you implement the feedback I gave you. If you just do it in the same way, then I repeat myself. I give you a second chance. But then if nothing happens, then I just move on. Let's write emails, but I make a note, not coachable.
Agreed. I mean, look, just to recap, because we mentioned quite a few things, right? And I want to make sure that the listeners have got it right. Do we agree? First of all, it's got to be about their sales attitude, right? Positive attitude, can-do attitude, go-getter, proactivity. So the basic, like mentality that we want a hunter seller to have, right? Then secondly, we would look at, I would probably say secondly, coachability. I don't know if you agree as a second thing I would look at, or would you put second skills?
No, coachability for sure, but kind of 2A, 2B.
Look,
I would rank them very, very high up.
I was actually thinking that this is actually good advice that we can give, but however, if you are in the situation that you're a founder, right, and or you've got a small sales team, and you don't have anyone that can coach, right? Then at that point, I think I'd rather have someone that's not that coachable, but's got the skills, because you're still gonna get good enough results for the stage at which I'm at. If I can't get a coachable person, which in some cases, you know, if you don't have good agencies on working with you, if you don't have a good network, you don't have a good name, you're gonna have to take what the market brings, right? In that case, I'd rather have someone with the right attitude and the right skills that may be set in their ways, and I won't be able to take to the next level, but can still deliver, right? What do you think about that?
I would say that's a very, very good point, man. I actually didn't thought about it that way, right? Because most founders don't actually have the resources to hire a coach, like hire you or me, or to spend how many thousands per month on a sales coach just to be here and train them.
Exactly.
Right? So
and
then
they don't have the skills
maybe
themselves
hiring
sometimes.
someone with a little bit more skill that can actually learn the product, or to learn, understand what product. They don't, I mean, SDRs don't have to learn the product.
Agreed.
I would just say that's hindrance.
I agree.
Especially for younglings, right? And look, we can do an entire episode, and we will do it. I'll make a note right after we finish taping here. Onboarding of salespeople, right? So what do we teach salespeople, man? Product training.
Agreed.
And then we are frustrated when our salespeople don't know how to ask questions. When they don't understand what are the core problems that our software, our solution, our baby solves.
Well, we're kind of tying back in of like no hiring for industry knowledge versus hiring for skill set, right? So, or anyway, baggage of skills.
But I saw seasoned reps get sucked into this. Do you know why? Because it's easy.
It's not calling, right?
No, but dude, this is easy way out. This is an easy way out for the sales rep. Come on, you give them a whole. I did what you asked. I spent 100 hours on product training, or I spent 50 hours on product training.
Agreed. I think
how many hours in asking?
Let's dive this
questions?
deeper when we discuss on the onboarding, because I think it's a whole topic on its own about.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, how we focus on the training and how we deliver it. But I completely agree with you. It's we're focusing too much on understanding the company versus understanding getting the right skills, I would say. And I mean, then at the final part, so we were talking about coachability, we're talking about attitude, we're talking about skills, then obviously checking references. One thing I would add from that perspective of the process would be to absolutely keep it as short and sweet as possible. Because I hear horror stories about these processes that are carrying on for days, weeks, months, etc. I don't hear you, Mario. No, sorry. I mean, I'm happy to keep talking and talking. You know, I'm Italian, so we can do this for a while without too many problems, right? I can do some lip reading in the meantime if you want. Yeah. So I think this is a good time to wrap up the episodes. And thanks for those that listen to us. Obviously, technical problems are always going to be coming in the way of these things. But at the same time, hey, we do like a good half an hour without too many interruptions. So thanks for everyone who's listening, and we'll see you in 1 week time. Bye bye.
Bye bye, everyone.